हेलो दोस्तों, स्वागत है आपका एज ऑफ ड्राइडन की सेकंड वीडियो में। इस वीडियो में हम शुरुआत करेंगे और पढ़ेंगे सैमुअल बटलर के बारे में। अब ये क्यों इम्पोर्टेंट है? क्योंकि ड्राइडन के अलावा एक जो राइटर जिसने इस फील्ड में लिटरेचर में बहुत ज्यादा नाम कमाया, बहुत ज्यादा अच्छे अच्छे वर्क्स दिए हमें, वो है सैमुअल बटलर। इनका जन्म हुआ था 1612 में और 1680 में ये गुजर गए थे। इनका जो सबसे फेमस वर्क है वो है हडीब्रस, the three parts of which were published in 1633, 34 और लास्ट पार्ट 1678 में। ये जो है ये सटायर्स था प्यूरिटन्स पर। हडीब्रस instantly hit the taste of the time and by its popularity greatly stimulated the general reaction against the saints and their cause. In the two central figures, the author holds up to her contempt two contrasted representatives of Puritanism. The Presbyterian Sir Hudibras himself, जो कि एक military enthusiast थे, though unconsciously a great deal of a hypocrite. He is not consciously insincere, while his attendant Ralpho is a vulgar, canting impostor who merely assumes the mask of virtue for his own profit. Some of its best passages suffer from prolixity, and too much space is given in it to the discussion of various points of Puritan casuistry. Yet it is full of wit and vivacity, and even its doggerel meter and its astonishing double rhymes, though we tire of them after a while, are, as Dryden said, fitted to the spirit and purpose of the burlesque. इस वर्क को पढ़ते हैं जब हम, और कुछ अलग जो वर्क्स हैं सैमुअल बटलर के जो नेट के रिगार्डिंग इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है लेकिन पढ़ सकते हो आप उनको, तो आपको पता चलेगा कि इनका जो मेन एम था ना वो एक तरह था कि प्यूरिटनिज्म को किल कर देंगे, बिल्कुल खत्म कर दे अपनी एज में, यानी ड्राइडन की एज में। He saw only the extravagance and the cartelianism which were of course often associated with Puritanism. The elements which rendered it so important in the making of history he could not or would not see, or at least he gave them no recognition in his work. यानी कि वो इतना ज्यादा अलग थे प्यूरिटनिज्म की जो विचारधारा होती है, जो उनके वर्क्स होते हैं, जो उनकी डेली लाइफ होती है जिसको वो एडवर्टाइज करते हैं, उससे बिल्कुल अलग थे। इसीलिए इन्होंने कभी उसको एडवर्टाइज नहीं किया, यानी कभी यूज नहीं किया अपने किसी वर्क में, क्योंकि वो उसको प्रमोट नहीं करना चाहते थे। चलिए अब आगे बढ़ते हैं और हम पढ़ेंगे द राइज ऑफ मॉडर्न प्रोज ड्राइडन की एज में। द रिस्टोरेशन, सेज मैथ्यू आर्नोल्ड, marks the real moment of birth of a modern English prose. From the historical point of view, the establishment of this modern prose is the greatest single fact in the literary annals of the age of Dryden. In the new prose, all that is changed. The sentences are much shorter and simpler. The large straggling masses are broken up. The parentheses and classical inversions are cleared away. Such change made it so evident for ease in writing and reading and for directness and lucidity. Many causes combined in the introduction and establishment of this new prose, the spirit of common sense and of critical temper of mind, which was so injurious to the higher interests of poetry, had itself a good deal to do with it. The extending influence of science, which favored clearness of thought and plainness of expression, must also be recognized. In the age of uncasing political and religious excitement, there was an immense development of that sort of the general reader and the ready writer thus appeared together, each acted upon the other, and the change of public necessarily meant that things which had formerly been treated in a dry, pedantic and difficult way had to be made simple and pleasant. All those influences told in the transformation which our prose now underwent, and to those who have to add the further influence of French literature. In advance of all other European countries, France had already evolved a king of prose, which in its clearness, flexibility and good taste was admirably adapted for all the purpose of ordinary exposition, discussion and social intercourse. The establishment of this new prose was not quite so sudden as Arnold's statement might lead us to think. Nor was it the work of only one man. But in a brief survey like this, Dryden has a special claim upon our attention as the first of a really great prose writers in the modern style. तो चलिए अब हम ड्राइडन के ही prose works को थोड़ा सा पढ़ते हैं. Dryden's prose writings consist mainly of essays and prefaces dealing with a large range of questions connected with poetry and the drama. We perceive the thoroughly representative character of his production as the Restoration saw the rise of the new prose. So also it saw the real beginning of modern criticism. For though, as we have noted, there had already been a certain amount of criticism in England, it was now for the first time that people addressed themselves systematically to the study of the principles of and law of literature. In the growth of criticism and of the corresponding tendency to check and guide production of by line and rule, we have another illustration of the spirit of an age which was far stronger on the side of analysis than on that of imagination, and in which the intellectual predominated over the creative powers. Dryden, our first great modern prose writer, is also our first great modern critic. अब ये याद रखने का पॉइंट है कि फर्स्ट ग्रेट मॉडर्न क्रिटिक कौन है? ड्राइडन. Dryden's work is of capital importance as a tastes and ideas of the rising classical school of literature. His best criticism is to be found in his writings on the drama, and particularly in the earliest and most masterly of all of them, the essay of dramatic poesy, in which he considers the respective principles and merits of the three chief types of drama: the classical drama of the Greeks and Romans, the neoclassical drama of the French, and the romantic drama of the English, among other matters, undertakes to justify the use of rhyme in place of blank verse on the stage and to vindicate the humor of English writers. Dryden often writes hastily and habitually careless in detail. In general, he accepted the limitations and prejudices of the age. His sagacity and penetration are indeed remarkable, while his prose style is characterized by clearness, vigor, a wonderful felicity of phrasing, and a colloquial ease which preserves a literary distinction and rarely descends to the level of the slipshod or the commonplace. अब प्रोज में इस एज में ड्राइडन के बाद हमारे पास जो इम्पोर्टेंट नाम आता है नेट के रिगार्डिंग वो है जॉन बनियन का, जिनका जन्म हुआ था 1628 में और 1688 तक ये हमारे साथ थे. He was the only other really great name in the prose literature of Dryden's age. He was son of a tinker whose trade he himself afterwards followed. Bunyan was born at Elstow, Bedfordshire, fought for a time in the Civil War, though on which side is uncertain. इन्होंने अपना रिलीजन भी कन्वर्ट किया था, इनकी शादी भी जल्दी हो गई थी और 1665 में इन्होंने प्रीच करना शुरू कर दिया था विलेज ग्रीन्स पर, और इन्हीं चीजों को ये कंटिन्यू करते रहे रेस्टोरेशन के बाद भी, और इन्हें कन्विक्ट कर दिया गया ए कॉमन अपहोल्डर ऑफ सेवरल अनलॉफुल मीटिंग्स एंड कन्वेक्टिकल्स एंड कमिटेड टू द बेडफोर्ड जेल, जिसकी वजह से इन्हें जेल भी जाना पड़ा ऑब्वियसली, जहां ये 12 साल तक रहे. हिज ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल ग्रेस अबाउंडिंग, जो इनकी ऑटोबायोग्राफिकल वर्क है, was the work of his captivity. The first part of the Pilgrim's Progress belongs to a second imprisonment of 6 months in 1675. He had obtained a license to preach and had become the regular minister of the Baptist congregation then meeting in a barn at Bedford. In the later years, he was also famous as a preacher in London. It was on a visit to London that he died, and he was buried in the old Dissenters' burial ground at Bunhill Fields, where Defoe and Isaac Watts were afterwards to be laid to rest. अब बनियन के काफी सारे वर्क्स हैं, जिसमें से 4 जो इनके ग्रेटेस्ट वर्क्स हैं वो हैं ग्रेस अबाउंडिंग 1660 में पब्लिश हुआ था, द पिलग्रिम्स प्रोग्रेस 1678 से 1684 तक पब्लिश हुआ था ये, द लाइफ एंड डेथ ऑफ मिस्टर बैडमैन जो कि 1618 पब्लिश हुआ था, एंड द होली वॉर जो कि 1683 1892 में पब्लिश हुआ था। There are many things about Bunyan which make him a very important figure in literary history. His wonderful imagination gave him a place almost by himself in an unimaginative age. He is the only man in our literature who has ever succeeded in writing a long prose allegory and in filling it throughout, without any sacrifice of his symbolism, with the absorbing interest of a real human story. The combined vividness and plainness of his writing is another remarkable feature of his work. Bunyan was not an educated man. He knew nothing of the classics, nothing about theories of literature, little or nothing even about English literature. But he had the authorized version of the English Bible by heart, and he was endowed by nature with a genius for style. Few writers, no matter what their training and accomplishments, have in fact ever shown a keener sense of the right words and the telling phrase. Finally, हम ये भी कह सकते हैं कि we must not overlook Bunyan's position in the evolution of English prose fiction. The controlling didactic purpose and the allegorical form prevents us from putting the Pilgrim's Progress into the class of regular modern novels. अब नेट के लिए ना कुछ छोटे छोटे राइटर्स भी थे इस एज के जिनके बारे में हम थोड़ा थोड़ा पढ़ लेते हैं, भाई उनमें से कुछ पॉइंट उठ भी जाए तो हमें नॉलेज हो उनके बारे में। जिसके अंदर हमारे पास सबसे पहला नाम आता है सर विलियम टेम्पल का। ये सबसे ज्यादा जाने जाते हैं through his relations with Swift, who wrote letters and essays in a plain but polished style. Next हमारे पास आते हैं जॉन टिलॉटसन, जो कि 1630 से 1694 तक जिए। He abandoned the older tradition of the pulpit, introduced a similar style into religious oratory, have a certain importance in the establishment of the new prose. Next is John Evelyn and Samuel Pepys. अब ये दोनों जो है ना, ये कन्वेंशनल राइटर्स ना होके डायरिस्ट जो होते हैं ना, वो ज्यादा। और अलग बात ये है कि ये अपनी एज के सिर्फ दो ही डायरिस्ट थे, जो थे जॉन एवलिन एंड सैमुअल पेपिस. Evelyn's diary is read mainly as a record of contemporary events as seen from the point of view of a loyal, thoughtful and high-minded royalist. On the other hand, Pepys' diary, apart altogether from its historical value, is one of the most entertaining books of English literature and the most extraordinary thing of its kind in the literature. It covers a period of nearly 10 years from January 1, 1660 to 31st May 1669. In these diaries, we can see the mention of the Restoration, the Great Plague and the Great Fire. But its principal interest lies in the vivid description which it gives to the men of manners of the day and the habits, fashions and scandals of the town. In its reproduction of the gossip of the street, the coffee houses and the playhouses, and in its record of the personal life and doings, the domestic troubles, the jealousies, successes and disappointments of the irrepressible diarist himself. Pepys did not write for the public eye, but for himself alone. He used a shorthand which was not deciphered till the early 19th century. As a revelation of the character from the inside, the diaries are very unique and information-giving sources for the literature's history. So that's it, guys. ये वीडियो के साथ हमारा एज ऑफ ड्राइडन भी यहाँ पे कंप्लीट होता है। नेक्स्ट वीडियो में हम स्टार्ट करेंगे एज ऑफ पॉप, कंप्लीट इंट्रोडक्शन करेंगे एज ऑफ पॉप का कि भाई उस टाइम पे किस तरह का लिटरेचर ज्यादा लोग पढ़ रहे थे, पसंद कर रहे थे। वर्सेस के बारे में जानेंगे, जो उस टाइम का स्कूल ऑफ पोएट्री था उसके क्या कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स थे, वो किन चीजों के ऊपर लिखते थे, क्या ट्रेड्स थे उस टाइप के उस टाइम की पोएट्री के, वो सब जानेंगे। और मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंटली जो नेट के लिए इम्पोर्टेंट पोएट्स है ना इसके, उन सबको कवर करेंगे। टिल देन अपनी तैयारी जारी रखें, मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में। थैंक यू गाइस।